Hello everybody and welcome to part 2 of the material check program. This is going to be on how to use the actual program. First let me start by saying I probably should have showed how to add the icon to run the program in part 1, but we'll do that now. So if you go under the options, toolbar configuration, under model parametric, see right there, click that, and you should see a check mark right here. And if you just add that to your toolbar, and that's the, I've already added it, but that's the icon to make the actual program run. So click OK. Let's cancel it, but you guys should save. And there your icon should be on your desktop now. So if we click it and just pick any piece of material on your screen, hopefully you should get a window that appears. If it doesn't and it crashes somehow, that means you've installed it incorrectly, and you can either try again redoing part 1 or give me a call, and we'll try and sort you out. Alright, so let me cancel that for a minute. One other thing I suggest when we start this is if you go under your, I think it's, I'm trying to remember where it is now, display options. There they are. Sorry about that. Display options. So if you click on here, there's a thing that's handy to have running while you're checking the model. It's sort of a new feature to 7.2, so if you're not aware of it, then if you turn on your member and material dimensions, so what that does is but you have to have some material detailed out. So just make sure you've actually detailed out the submaterial. So make sure those are all up to date, and then when you hover on an object, you'll notice you see the dimensions for it right on the screen. So that's a handy tool to use in combination with this program that I'm about to show you. So that way you get a feel for dimensions as well as sizes and whatnot. See, the trouble with this angle right now, just by looking at it, I don't know how big the angle is. At least now I can know what the centers are at 80 centers, and it's 390 long, but what size is the angle? There's no quick easy way without having to edit the angle or edit the beam edit window to find out what it is. So if we click on that angle, you'll notice you get a dialog box. So it's showing me that the piece mark, what the piece mark was, a 5dm, which is a standard piece mark for us. That was an angle, that's it's a 3x3 by 5/16 angle. It's a 390 long. Also, it tells you what member generated it and some of the member end information from the member. So it knew that it was member number B4, which is the one here, that generated that material. And you can see that it was a 690, it was a beam, and if you notice, you'll see auto standard and user shear load below auto level. So if you see something in red, or if you see the word user, that's usually an indication. That's the only field I couldn't figure out how to turn red. Hopefully in the future I'll figure that out, and maybe we'll be able to fix that. But you'll either say auto or user. And again, that's about the only field I couldn't find to turn red to kind of warn people. But anytime you see anything red or green or any kind of colors, anything other than this sort of bland generic window, that's a warning that something's not the usual. Right? So you can see in this case the shear load was below auto level, and you can see that someone set it to user. So what that means is, and handy part of this program is that you can actually interact with the SDS while the program is running. And what I mean by that is I can edit that beam edit window while my program's running, and so you can check things while you're checking this as well. So if we scroll down, sorry, let me get back to my loads. So what that means was user means someone that turned off the auto check, and you see it reported whatever value was in there, and the shear load was below auto level. So if we click on auto redesign, it should have been 1477. So that warned me that someone's put it below that. Now that's not something you can even do in the beam edit window. This is the only program I know that can even tell you that. Because I could have just easily put it higher. Now, if someone didn't put it higher, well, that's probably fine. But if they're putting it lower, then you want to make sure that it should be lower and it's okay to be lower. So what I'm going to talk to you now about here, so let me cancel out of that. Let that process. I'll cancel out of this. Sorry, let me put that. I'll actually put that back to 300. Sorry, so I get a connection. Oh, there we go. So let me try that again. I'll click on that again. Now I can either cancel, and you saw what happened, just doesn't do anything. But if I hit OK, it sees that there were two of them. There's one on the opposite side of this beam, and saw that there are two of them that are attached to the same beam, and asked me if I want to update them both at the same time. I can either update them one at a time or both, so I'll have to say yes. So there we go. So now if I kind of swing around to the other side, you see them both are white. Now when I click, you notice this one doesn't have a connection on the left end. When I click the main material, again you see the piece marks, the wide flange, the size, the length of it. In this case, it's the main material, so it's going to show the left and right end information at the same time. If I just click OK, you'll notice it instantly turned blue. Once you've checked all the submaterial on a beam, it's going to turn blue. Now, to stop my program, you just hover out in space and right click. You can either say OK or cancel, doesn't matter which. Say OK, now we're stopped. So we're out of my program, we're just back into regular SDS2. So let's say I made a mistake. I shouldn't have checked that. I want to undo what I've done. So if I click on the program, click the main material, or whatever material it is you want to undo, you can click clear. Say OK. Now that turned the blue off, and you can see there's the white angles there too. So if I want to undo that one, select the angle, clear it again. Saw that there are two of them. Undo it. Now it's back to the way it was. Alright, so that's how you undo this. Now you can also add errors onto it. If someone made a mistake, you don't have time to talk to them, or you want to deal with it later, you can say material error. Click on it. Saw that there were two of them. Say OK. Now it turns them red. So now it's red in the model. So that's a warning to you yourself or a framer that there's something wrong with this angle. You can use the notes field in the edit window. If you click on there, if you want to talk to the person about it, you can describe what the problem was using the notes field if you wish. So that's an option. And if you want to handle it that way and have a framer fix the problem, he can click on it and say material back checked. Click on it, OK. Do you wish to update? So now it's sort of this heavy blue color. And then the checker could then go back, see this blue, and say, OK, well, has he fixed it to what I want? Yes, he has. If he has, click on it. Say OK. Update, yes. Now it's white. Now we click on that one. Say OK. Now it's blue again. So that's how you would handle something if you wanted to talk back and forth between a checker and a modeler. Most of the time, I find that it's just when you find a mistake, the checkers are usually close by. You can just step up and speak to the guy about it. But if you did want to do it, or if the guy was away for that day or whatever, and you just wanted to flag it so no one forgot about it, it's a good way to do that when someone's not there. So we'll right-click OK. We'll have a look at a situation here. Let's say a framer was doing that, and it generated this crazy big connection. Or even better, let's use this one here, where we've got a web doubler, and it used 1-inch bolts, and maybe I only wanted 3/4-inch bolts. So let's say the framer went in here, and he went to user, and he just bumped this down to, let's say, made it 7 rows each, and he's gonna change that from, let's say, use 3/4-inch bolts, going to get rid of the web extension plate, or sorry, the web doubler. Say neither side. So okay. So let's say they've tweaked it around somehow. So there we go. Now if we click on it, you might not pick that up when you're checking the model, right? So it's hard to tell, at least by eye. But if you click on it, at least now you can see connection set to user. So now if I edit that beam, so you know the radio button for user has been put on, and that someone's been tampering with the connection somehow. So that's a good flag. Now you have other flags, like that say the person said, oh yeah, you know what, that shouldn't be 16 thick, I'll just use my more standard, sure, 3.5 by 3 angle, right? So click that, see it's going to turn it to graphical. So process it, go back. Now when I check it, you can see graphical end connection. So now that relates again to this purple setting up here, graphical end connection. So there's a lot of things like that in there. If you can tell a little more about unusual things, like if you roll a piece of material, and it can be anything, a plate, anything, it doesn't matter what you do. We'll say we'll roll it by 10. Handy, that would be handy if the main material was actually cambered, not camber annotation, but actually cambered. So you can see here miscellaneous information that popped up that said that it was cambered by 10 millimeters. So it'll tell you things a lot like that as well. I'm going to talk a little bit, and it'll give you all sorts of information, be it rolled, twisted, it'll tell you if it's twisted, anything. It'll also tell you if a user has actually added something. So let me just add, I'll just add something, it doesn't matter. If a user has actually manually added something. Sure, that'll work. Okay. So there we go. Okay, so that's me adding something in there. So if I click on it, you'll see user added material. That means someone's manually added that piece of material onto it. So for all the connection material that SDS2 doesn't know what to do with. Now, I will, word of caution, if you're modeling end connections, you remember before how the program's smart enough that if SDS2 created the connection, it knows to give the left, it knows which end to give of the member and what member generated it. So you saw in this case we had an angle that was attached to a column. It was smart enough to know that it was the beam's left, this beam's left end that created the connection, and showed information about that. For user added material, unfortunately it's not that smart. So what it's going to do in that case for this area is display the material, or the member that it's attached to. So in this case, it's actually attached to this beam here, this beam B3. So it gave the left and right information to beam B3, or the member that it's attached to. So it'll always give the member that's attached to the left and right hand end information about that piece. So if you model a lot of your end connections, it won't be that smart in obtaining information about the member end, but odds are you probably would have had it set to plain end anyway. So it might not be that big of a deal. Plus you can always, if you realize that's the case, you can always edit the member, whatever member you want, inside the program to find the information. I'm going to talk a little bit now about the bells and whistles of it. If we go back to this example here, if we go into properties and go into, let's see, frame by, oh wait a minute, sorry, detailer, input by, we'll say Kurt. Say okay, okay. Click on that, click on the angle again. So modeled by Kurt. So that way if a checker wants to know who was the guy that did the connection, well, you'll have that in there, and that will display whose ever name modeled that for them. So there is that one there that's in there. Also, what you can do if you go under properties again and use engineer sketches. So if you have a design sketch you want to follow, so you can put in left or right hand in sketches. If you click on it again, so you can see there's a design sketch which applied there. It kind of flagged you. And it saw that it was the left-hand end in this case, which applies. So it just said that it was design sketch 15, which applied to that connection. So again, these are a few of the bells and whistles. This is what I was talking about in part 1 when I said about the setup, about using design data. Now you can always, if you're knowledgeable about custom properties, if you use the same variable names to create that, then you can incorporate that into your own custom properties if you wish. Also, if you have a lot of parametrics which create wait a minute, let me use this one, which create end connection material. If you go back to properties here, there are ones in here you can add on. Member connection ID. So let's say I wanted, here, let me go back, I'll explain this a little more. I need the information. Let's say I wanted it to display the information about the column. So the column member number is 1, and I want it to display information about the right hand end. So I find if you write this into a parametric, which creates its stuff, it's not so bad. I doubt you would use this if you didn't have a parametric to fill it in for you. This would be sort of a pain. So the member connection ID is, in this case, it's member number 1. So member number, and the member connection end, 0 is left, 1 is right. So that'll be 1 as well in this case. So if I close that. Now when I click on it, now it gave me the information about the column, the right hand end of the column. So if you have manually added some material, it's user added material or manually added material. If you incorporate those fields, those material custom property windows into your parametric, it's not so bad. Then you can have it filled in. I doubt anybody would do this by hand, but then you can fill in these fields, and the program will read that, and it'll know what member information to display. So that's it in a nutshell. There's well, here I will also state, if you look under search, all these fields in here, it will display all these things like braces with different thickness gussets, shear loads below minimum setup. We saw that one. When the system changes connections, you wanted your auto standard was a header connection, and it switched it to a shear tab on you. It will display all those things. Like there it is, connection changed by system. It'll tell you when bolt diameters were changed by the system, all sorts of different things. So it's all in there. Give it a whirl. If you got any questions about it, more specific questions, feel free to shoot me a question on the forum. That way everybody will get to hear your question and learn from it. Hope everybody likes the program and you get some use out of it. Alright, take care.